Hello. Hi, Kojo.
Hey Maria, you're right, yeah?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing excelente. Thank you very much.
You've been busy today, busy
Y-
in these YouTube streets.
You know how it gets out here. I'm
I
I'm
see.
I'm out here, baby.
I see. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this show. I'm super excited to talk about this topic. This is a topic that stemmed from a previous live that we did on Ready to Love. And it's a topic about beauty standards of society and how that affects plus size women. I know that the discussion got a little heated, but I just want you guys to know that Kojo and I and everyone on the panel, we are all friends. And, sometimes we might disagree on topics, but that doesn't mean that there's any love lost. We all love each other, we all respect each other. And so
Trust me.
I thought that the conversation was so important that it really deserved a much larger and broader conversation to be had where we can really dig deep on the topic specifically because it is a topic that is prevalent in our society today, as there's a lot of relationship gurus out there um, giving all types of messages about what beauty is and what it's supposed to look like and who's deserving of love and things like that. So um, I wanted to, thank Kojo for sharing his platform with me
Come on.
and allowing me to kind of, really expand and expound on this topic. If you guys didn't know, I just recently started my own channel, which
Mm-hmm.
was inspired by Kojo and all of the engagement that I've had on his channel. So I really appreciate that as well. But yeah, Kojo, like, I know we talked a lot behind the scenes, but did you get a chance to like think about this topic anymore?
Obviously, I did. Obviously, for those who don't know, obviously we had some conversations behind the scenes. You know, I think I mean, we have different. The way that we see things is slightly different. But I'm always open. Like I'm always open to listen and to hear a different point of view. And I think that's what tonight's really about. It's about us being able to engage and have a conversation. Obviously, guys don't. Obviously, audience don't know. We engaged in conversation after for a few hours. And this is what we. This is how we grow. This is how we are able to refine. So I appreciate the time that we spent in conversation. In terms of my particular thoughts, I'm still where I am, but I'm willing to be open tonight, and hear different points of view.
Okay. And that's totally fine. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have your perspective. I think that that's a good thing because I think we all need to be in a space where we can feel comfortable, challenging each other's thought processes and each other's worldview so we can have like a more robust conversation. I see people asking what my channel is. It's Maria S. So if you type that in YouTube, I should pop up or one of my videos should pop up. I might be hard to find because I'm a new channel. So type in like Maria S. Temptation Island and then I should pop up. But I wanted to open up the first 30 minutes of this conversation to women who are plus size, who, would be comfortable sharing their story. I try to get people to send me emails beforehand, but I know that it might be a difficult thing to do just because the topic is so sensitive. And I just want everyone to understand that I want this to be a conversation where we're creating a safe space for people to feel comfortable to share their experiences. So let's keep it respectful, let's keep it nice, and let's just all have
Absolutely.
listening ears.
Hmm.
And I also wanted to bring some people on who are men who are attracted to plus size women so that they can also share their experiences. I have a guest who you guys have not met yet. His name is Shem, and he's actually related to someone who's on the super panel who you guys know and love very much. His name is Didi. So I'm going to bring Shem on to discuss, and I'm also going to bring Dee Dee on. Hey, fellas, how are
Hi,
you?
Hey,
hi.
DD.
How's everyone?
Shane.
What's up?
Good. Good to
What's up?
see you guys.
Likewise,
Gang.
likewise.
So I am so excited to have you guys talk about, this topic because when Dee Dee told me that he's attracted to plus size women, I was just like, yes. So Dee Dee, talk to me. Talk to me. What makes you attracted to?
Wait, Maria. Before
Oh,
you go any further, there is a question we need to
Mm,
ask. There's
oh,
one question we need to ask. Can
okay.
we define what plus size is?
oh,
I think
that's
that's
a
a good
very good
question.
question.
That's a good question.
Very good
Okay.
question.
So I looked up the definition,
Mm-hmm.
and plus size is, in US sizes, anywhere like between a size 16,
Yeah,
18, and
yeah,
up.
yeah. That's what I
Okay.
saw.
So that would be considered plus size. And I'm hoping you guys relatively know what that looks like on a woman.
16 or 18.
Yeah, plus. So anything that size and up.
Who connects ID?
No. What? Okay. In relation to small, medium, large, where does that fit in?
Let's be on that scale, mate.
It would be it would be on the thicker side. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know,
Well, yeah, but
You know,
yeah.
you
there's
know this
there's
is
there's there's large.
okay.
There's
Tresor, is it bigger than Tresor or would you say Tresor size?
I would say tressa size
Mm.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
considered plus size for
Yeah, chest
sure.
size is pretty much plus size.
Vernicia is also considered plus size, right?
I think that's where the
Shem, fit.
complication comes.
Let's put it like that.
okay. If you say that,
Yeah,
brother, I
just
understand what you mean.
because since I know what she's talking about, I'll just tell you what it is.
Okay, I understand then. Okay.
Yeah, we understand.
All right. So that being the case, talk to me about your experiences because there is a perception out there that men in general, a broad stroke of men, uh, don't are not attracted to plus size women. So can you just talk to me about, what makes you attracted to plus size women and when did you realize that you were attracted to plus size women?
Shem, go ahead.
Um, to be honest, there's nothing I could really okay, every guy has what they're attracted to, in terms of figure, apart from personality, in terms of shape and whatnot. And for me, to be honest, I just find myself attracted to, thick women. Like that's what it attracts me. I cannot explain it and give a logical reason, but when you see someone, there's just that feeling of attraction that just cannot be explained. Like that connection you have with that person, and that's just for me. I'm just attracted to thicker women. Um, yeah, that's the best way I can explain it.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
for me, there's that slogan, finger looking good.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, like for me, basically, is the the shape. That's what really attracts me to them. Like the bust, the butt, the thighs, even the little arms. You don't need to have muscular arms because I don't know. I mean, like you have muscles, but the little. I like to feel like when I hug, when I kiss, when I hold you, like the feeling I get from it. That's what have me attracted to them because it for me. I don't want to be hugging someone and I feeling no disrespect to any skinny women, but I just want to feel some meat when I hold somebody. I don't want to
You.
feel like you. Like I'm not feeling the warmth basically,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, that's what really attracts me to them is basically the bust, the butt, the thickness, and I like to hold my woman, and then for me, I need to feel like I'm holding someone. I don't need to feel like okay, I'm just holding myself, like you're
Mhm.
really slim. And basically, it's just the shape, the figure, but there are different types. You understand? They have those that probably have, it's all about the place. I don't go for that type because there are different types.
Wait, what do you
And yeah,
mean?
no, I mean like some of them. When I say different types, like they probably like okay, I'm a butt guy, so there are some without butts. Like
Okay,
it's
okay. It's
yeah.
like
So then
flat back there.
yeah, so then it
Okay,
has to be balanced for me.
okay,
But I don't discriminate. But I'll quicker approach one that's what I'm looking for.
okay, okay.
Just saying. But
So, how do you guys feel when you hear people like Kevin Samuels or other people say that men are not attracted to plus size women? Like, how do you guys feel when you hear that type of messaging?
that man,
Uh,
go ahead, Chef.
that's like putting men in, putting all men in one category. Like different men like different things. Some men like slim women, some men like women on the thicker side. You will not get all men in the world only attracted to one type of woman. You
Hmm.
understand? Even, a woman that I may not be attracted to, another man out there, that's who is extremely attracted to. So to make statements like, men are not attracted to plus size women is an ignorant statement, to be honest, because you're basically putting all men in one category, and that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, Shem said it best that you cannot categorize all men as they don't like plus size women because that would just be like you saying like every man on this earth is not attracted, which is wrong. What if, let's say, when you met the person and the person is a certain size, after pregnancy, women gain weight and she gets bigger. What you gonna do? You're gonna get a divorce, or you're gonna say you don't want to be with her anymore? So, the way some men think, it's rather interesting for me that they would think that there are men out there that are not attracted to plus size women. But for me, Shem said it best. It's you can't put every man in the same bracket. Everybody thinks differently. Everybody like who they like. Everybody love who they love. So
Gotcha. Do you guys ever feel like men who are attracted to plus size women get shamed for dating them or being attracted to them? Like, have you ever experienced that in life? No.
Where I'm from,
no,
nah.
where we from? Where we
Well,
from?
tell the people where you guys are from, by the way.
We're from Saint Lucia,
Saint
Caribbean.
Lucia, Caribbean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? I will say
It's in
Caribbean
the car.
men.
I can say in my
Yeah,
island, it's we have a lot of plus size women in my island. So I guess maybe because of our culture that it's
Mhm.
normal to us. It's normalized. It's something that's normalized to us. So we see them walking around all the time. I mean, they have all different shapes, sizes, color, but for us, like you get a lot of them on like walking around, and we see them, we acknowledge them. So you don't get shamed or you don't get put down if you see a guy dating one because of most likely because of our culture where we're from.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and I think that putting that into context of where you're from, and the culture that you come from is definitely relevant. I think even in the U.S., there are certain regions of the U.S. where it's a lot more acceptable um, to date plus size women. A lot more men are attracted to plus size women. So, for instance, in the South, it's very common. And then I guess in other areas of the country, it's not as common, right? So I definitely think that is interesting to highlight. I'm going to go ahead
Wait,
and,
can I
oh,
jump in
go
again?
ahead.
I
Yeah.
don't think we've defined plus size very well. Still, we have not been definitive. I believe when we say plus size, Didi was gonna describe it, and he didn't go all the way. When we're talking about plus size here, right? Because I think plus size is when you said thick. What is thick? Because I think what's happening is we're going to have one or two different conversations here. Thick. What do you mean by thick? Describe shape for me, Didi. What is thick for you? What is the one that you're
Okay,
going for?
I can just give you an example. For
Yeah.
me, Tressa and Vernicia is thick.
So that would be what you describe as thick.
Yeah. And that's why when I explained it to Shem, he understood what I was saying. That's
Okay.
what we would describe as thick.
Didi,
Okay.
did you find Tressa attractive?
Yes, Tressa is very attractive.
I agree. I think Tressa was beautiful. I think that, the way she dressed was nice or whatever. Like, I didn't see really much problems with her. Now, I do feel like, the connections that she was trying to make on the show was a little bit hard for her. I think because she had a lack of confidence in certain areas. Like, I remember when she first talked to the Papa guy, she led with the conversation of like, are you attracted to my type? So how important is confidence when you're looking to date a woman or get to know a woman?
Shem.
Um, I mean, like confidence in confidence within myself.
So the confidence that the woman carries, how
Oh,
important?
it's important. I'll tell you why. Um, if you love yourself, you should have confidence in yourself. I don't want to be with someone who every second is being extremely insecure about himself, and that could, cause problems because if I like to be with someone that I can joke around with, right? A lot. Like I'm a very jokey person. So, if I don't want to be in a situation where I have to be like extremely careful as to what I say to you because you're so insecure and you're so not confident about yourself. Whereas if I'm just joking around, you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So it's important to me that you're confident. It's good to be confident because when you're confident, your whole attitude, your whole demeanor, everything about you is just, you the way you do things is just different from somebody who's not confident in themselves, and that applies to work, school, and everything.
Yeah, yeah, confidence plays a very big part in the way a woman feel about herself because then, like certain places we would go, like she probably would not want to dress a certain type of way or she would not want to go certain places with me because she's not confident about herself because some plus size women don't feel comfortable like wearing a bikini or they don't feel comfortable wearing a bathing suit. So like what if we want to spend time together, we want to go to the beach and I want and then like you want to be covered up. Like if you have that confidence, you'll feel very confident about your body, feel very confident about yourself. And certain places we want to go, it wouldn't pose an issue or problem because you're very confident about yourself. The only thing is, I think plus size women should just wear clothes that, complement their body. And for me, Tressa did that. And I find sometimes there's a double standard because she's very confident about herself, so she dressed how she feel comfortable. But then when people are small, a little smaller than her, dress that same way, people are like, oh, this and that, and they're smiling, they're happy about it. But then if she do it, they'll be talking under the breath and saying that, oh well, why would she wear this? Why would she wear that? But
Mhm.
Tressa is just confident about herself. She's confident about her body, so that's why she dresses the way she dresses. And people shouldn't look at it that way sometimes. But then, for me, the way she dressed on the show, it was fine for me. She didn't have anything too short. I mean, women like to wear tight clothes, which is I know they want to show the curves their body. But if you see she was wearing a lot of short stuff, that's when I'll be like, it don't compliment the body because you have to be very careful when you wear short stuff. But for
Gotcha.
me, confidence is very important.
Confidence is
So
key.
can I ask a question?
Sure, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's the question.
Just I'm being angel advocate today. Um, rather than devil, we don't be devil's advocate here. So Didi specifically, because obviously I know you watch Ready to Love. So you like thick. Listen, I like women thick. So that's why I had to make it very clear. Because when we say thick, I want to make it very clear. For me, there's a shape that I like. So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So for you, when you watched obviously Ready to Love, was Tressa your first person that your eye was drawn to? Was that the first person you saw and said, "Yep, that's the one I'm attracted to. That's the one I want"? In all honesty, I'm
Okay,
asking that
the
question.
first, I'm being very honest. The first person was Vernicia, and when I saw her, I was like, "Ooh, all right." And then I just switched from Vernicia to Tressa.
I saw Vidish too. Yeah.
So
That's how I see.
what made you be initially attracted to Vernicia first?
Because I guess like I said, there are different types of thickness, right?
Mm-hmm.
She more looks like the gym type, like the type that probably go to the gym, work out, and exercise. So she keeps it tight.
Okay.
And then there are those that don't go to the gym, but it still look good. Regardless, it still look good. And Tressa is one of them. She don't need to go to the gym for me. She don't need to do it for herself, but she'll work for me. I don't know for other people, but she'll work for me because, like I said, I like the meat. I like it
Okay, so you said that you switched from Vernicia to Tressa. What made you
because
switch?
Tressa is thicker. That's why.
Okay. I like it.
That's why I switched from Vernicia to Tressa because Tressa is thicker. So there you go.
Okay. Hey, I'm not mad at that. Look, guys, here you have it. Two men who gave their perspective on this topic that, might have been slightly different from the original male perspective that we got when we first started the conversation on the last live. And so I thought it was really important to highlight these perspectives because I do think that it's when we're talking about, attraction to the female body. Um, I do think that it is important to highlight that not everyone is going to be attracted to the same things, that everyone has their own flavor and taste, and that there are a lot of men out here who are of high value. And I'll just say, Didi is a high value male. Okay, he is a good person with good integrity. I just met his brother, but I'm assuming that they are cut from the same cloth. And there are good men out there that love thick women. Okay. And it's okay. So I
Can
am
we
going.
ask some more questions? Can we ask some more questions? No, I want to make because obviously we're
Okay,
having a
go
real
ahead.
conversation. We've got men on today. Now I want you to highlight something for me, Didi and Shem. So when we're saying obviously plus size, because Tressa had the shape, right? She had the shape that you like, the back, the chest was correct, right? Right. But if the girl doesn't have that, the back now, does that change it for you slightly? I'm not saying you're not attracted at all, but I'm saying does that change it for you slightly? In all honesty, no cap, real spit.
Uh,
Shameful.
I would prefer a woman with more, but like
Mm.
I'm with you, bro.
being totally honest, I would prefer, and a lot of men would too, prefer a woman with more. But that doesn't mean that if it's not there, that your personality wouldn't be able to take me away. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's connection, personality. That's things that mean a lot to me. So if it's a case where the butt isn't there, we go on a few dates, we get to know each other, and your personality is just, and our connection is just on par, we're on the same wave, then I wouldn't look at it as okay, she doesn't have the amount of butt I want, so I can't be with her. That wouldn't definitely would not be how I would feel about it. I would still, push to be in a relationship with that person despite not having the amount of butt I want because, she mixes it up in other departments like personality, character, etc.
You
So
see,
now,
Kojo,
no, I'm not disagreeing. I'm agreeing with you. So now, Didi, when you said that Tressa's thicker, define what you meant by Tressa is thicker. Do you mean she's thicker because she has greater assets, or she's thicker because of her shape in general? What did you mean by that?
she had bigger boobs. She had
Thank
a
you.
wider butt.
Precisely my point. Shape matters. Those things, those are assets.
Okay, but that comes with the territory of being thick though. Like, like when
Yeah.
you're thick, you're gonna have bigger boobs, you're gonna have a bigger butt.
Hmm.
You might also have a little fupa as well. if you are a naturally thick woman, you know?
Yep.
So how do you, that's a good question. How do you guys feel about fupas? Like,
Yeah, that it keeps me warm in the night.
yes, Didi.
Look,
um,
so long it's not too overlapping, it will work for me. Because like I say, you have to keep it at a certain
Hmm.
way. That's just my preference. If it's too much, no. Because you have to because like I said,
It
I'm
must be
just
balanced,
right.
right? Like you said,
You have to
balance.
also have a balance. There must be a balance. Because the same way if you like to answer Kojo's question, if she doesn't have a behind, it like Shem said, she will have let's say she doesn't have a behind but she has breasts, right? It would still attract me to you regardless of you don't have a behind. But then, like Shem said, they must have something else that make up for you not having a behind. Basically, it can be your personality. It can be other features on you. But the thing is, it would not deter me from being attracted to you. It won't. You understand? I would still get to know you, go on a date with you. I don't discriminate. Like if I like to see her, I'll go after. I'll be like, yo, can we kick it? Can we go for on a date? Can we get to know one another? And if she doesn't have a behind, I will look to see if maybe there are other aspects of her that will make me even more attracted to her.
okay.
So
So Didi, you're saying that when it comes to you being attracted to a woman, it goes beyond just the physical. You try to dig deeper on the personality.
yeah, personality is the key for me. Like, but I have my type, but personality is very important for me because
Yeah.
there's this Caribbean song and Shem Kojo must have heard it before. He said, "Pretty face and a bad character." You understand? So sometimes you meet women with a pretty face and then the character is just not what you expect it to be. So sometimes a pretty face is not always the answer. Personality is the key for me.
So all I'm gonna say is, this is what I was saying. You just described it. There has to be you. Whether listen, I can date a girl who may not be my preference of shape. I could, but what is your preference? That's what we're talking about because that guides the options. Because if you have those girls in a room, and there's a girl that's closer to your preference, if that girl has a good personality and that girl who hasn't got the shape has a good personality, you're not choosing that girl who has got the good personality because she doesn't have the shape that you want, right? You'd first choose the one that you have a preference for. And if then her personality was trash, then you would go to that other girl, which is what I'm talking about with options. I wasn't saying that Tressa doesn't get options. You got man. You just said yourself, this has got a nice shape. A man want that. But what you specified on was shape is important. Back off breasts are important. That's what makes the plus size for you now acceptable. You said earlier on, overlapping. Did I not say keep it tight? I didn't say anything different.
But let me ask you a question. Is Tressa attractive to you?
No, because her face looks like my auntie's. That's why. It's not that she's not good looking. It's not that she's good looking. To me, I can't because she reminds me of my auntie. Not that she's not good looking. She reminds me of my auntie. So I can't look past my auntie. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I can't look at my auntie that way. Do you get what I'm saying? That's the only reason why. Other than that, she is a good looking woman. I just know that I was talking about options, not her specifically.
Coach, her body shape, it's not all over the place.
It's
It's
not.
not.
It's not. It's not. But you described what I was talking about. You just said it a minute ago. It can't be overlapping to a certain degree where it's too much. So there has to be a balance.
But Kojo, in our last live, you said that she needed to trim her waist down.
I didn't say she needed to. I said if she wants greater options, that would have to be something that needs to be trimmed and also to get increase of options. That's what I said. I didn't say she didn't get options. I said to increase your options. If she trimmed that up, she looked like a baddie and no one can say you're homie. That's why I asked you who did you first see. And actually, you did something that was really interesting. I asked you who did you first see. You said Vernicia. And why? Because she had a trim tummy. Boom. And then you changed it after because you said Tressa's got all the assets that you want. Fine. But then I asked you to define what are those assets you're talking about. And you spoke about her chest and her bum. So
Yeah,
that's a compensation. No beef.
Thighs,
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. I like breast and
arms,
bum. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like wrestling,
But look, the thickness of her thighs, her arms, all that comes into play as well.
I hear you,
Kojo, like
bro.
for me, I was just saying, it doesn't her and her stomach. Trust me, it's for me, it's perfect because it's not too big, it's not too flat.
That's fair enough. So if someone had a bigger stomach, would you still have say the same thing you're saying now? Then
Like I say, it depends on how big it is because then it would that's like it would deter me, but it would still not prevent me from probably going on a date with her. It would not.
so I'm not saying anything that was so I haven't said anything that was different from what Didi said. It's the same thing. He hasn't said
Yeah,
anything
Kojo,
different. He's
you're
just skirted around the
He said
issue.
things that were different from what Didi said. Okay,
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
mute myself.
he definitely said things that were different, but you know what? I do want to expand this conversation to more members of the team so that we can dive even deeper into this topic. I'm going to add some ladies in. Hey, Natalie, how are you? Hey, Layla. Hey, Lola. Hey, David. How are you guys?
Hey, what's up? How you
Hey,
doing?
Maria. I'm
Hey
so
everyone, hi
proud of you. I'm
Maria.
excited.
Thank you, guys.
We're doing it.
All my friends are here.
But you see how Kojo's doing
So
his debate captain. Like you see how Kojo's debating, like he's doing debate team.
I
You see
know
how
Chris
you
was
clock
over
that?
here like he's doing a cross examination or something. I'm
Yo,
like,
Cause
okay.
you
let's
lot try, leave me
nah
in the
G,
dirt out here.
nah
I
G,
told you,
nah,
man,
nah,
them.
nah, nah,
I told you,
told
man, them. I man them.
I think you have some company now that individual has joined. I don't know. David, I know that you might be of a different thought process. So what do you think about this topic that we've been talking about?
So I think what everyone said has legitimate points. However, the reason why I wanted to chime in was because there was actually a study on this. It's a Peer J study, and it was in 2015 where they took 1,000 people and they gave them 5,000 options of women to view. And it was not based on their facial features. They didn't know any of these women. They just told them to rate the women or based on their preference. And they had them look at the different body shapes and body masses, right? And it turns out that most of a majority of the men who were viewing the women preferred the women with a lower body mass in relation to their waist to hip ratio. So it turned out that despite the fact that these were all men from different countries in Asia, as well as different countries in Africa, as well as the Americas, it turned out that a majority of them still preferred women who were of the lower body mass ratio in relation to their waist to hip ratio. So it wasn't necessarily that they only liked skinnier women. It wasn't necessarily they only liked fitter women, but they just liked a woman who carried the weight well. So this could go in either way, in which there was a thicker woman, which would show that in the African countries they were thicker women. However, their body mass was lower in relation to their waist to hip ratio. So they liked whiter women, but they still had lower body mass, right? So in according to the whole study, it still showed that there were men who preferred women who just kept it what Didi and Kojo seem to say in terms of tighter. That's not a hard and fast rule because obviously there are exceptions to every rule. But it would seem as if the majority of the men preferred women who had carried their weight in a more traditional way that we see it these days. Now that could have many different factors. We don't know all that. I haven't found any evidence towards that. But this is just what I wanted to chime in and see like what people thought about that because it's a peer-reviewed study. It seemed pretty legit to me. I went through it and I thought it was pretty interesting.
Okay.
can I say something about this study? If I
Go
may?
ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
bro,
Lola.
I feel you. How you doing, Richard? How's it going? So this study was probably done in Boston, with a few, some Karen and Kens. So my point here is that I think that it really differs along cultural lines, what the preference is, what you've been conditioned to see and like. Now, if we go back to think about my people in Nigeria, people in Ghana, I'm looking at Kojo right now. Generally, they will go for a woman who has more of a figure. Now, I understand what they're talking about in preference in terms of proportions, but generally, for example, I use myself as an example. The last time I was in Nigeria, this was maybe a year or 2 years ago, I was hanging out with a friend. I was wearing like a pantsuit. And then another lady, because usually ladies, we're the biggest judges. It's not the men. They just pick and go to the bedroom. The ladies, we judge. And so another lady said to me that I looked like I had fabric wrapped around a tree. That's what she said about me. She said I was too small. I'm not that small. I'm generally a 6. In my bigger end, I might be a 7 or 8, but that's my size. That's a normal, well, it's not a normal size. But anyway, that's my size, which I don't think is necessarily small. But she called me a tree. I have a little backside, maybe a little butts matter, but she called me a tree. So I think depending on the cultural lines is where you decide the preferences, which is why people all the time say, down in the southern states, there's a preference for a woman who has more of a figure. But this boils down all to conditioning. What have we been conditioned to believe is beautiful? What are they putting? So the reason why this discussion is important is because what are we putting in front of our children, in front of the boys to make them believe this is beautiful? To attain that level of beauty, you have to be this or that. So I don't want to attack men for their preference, but it pretty much kind of lines around where you live or where you grew up or how you grew up. That's what I think. So the study might have been valid because, it might have been valid for the circle they were looking at, but it's hard to say. How many people were in that study?
So it was a study of 1,000 people, but it was also in different countries like Lithuania, China, Kenya,
those are all tiny
Morocco.
people. Those are tiny people, yeah.
Yeah, but then you also have people in Africa who are a bit bigger. You know what I'm saying? This is the point.
Yes.
You didn't want it to be only relegated to one area, and it wasn't just in the U.S. It was like pretty much places across the world, and there still seemed to be a certain trend that they all follow. Of course, there's still a wide range of women that fall into this, but for the most part, it was down to the proportions that seem to matter, and of course, proportions vary. But it was still like, okay, we prefer a certain type of woman, which seems to be the issue, right?
So individual, what do you prefer? Like, I feel like our young men have been conditioned to change their taste, no longer what their mother was, but, maybe somebody, I don't know, I'm just putting out there. What do you prefer, sir? I'm sorry, Marie, I'll let him go.
Girl, take over. It's not a problem.
I'm actually from Ghana too. And my mom was actually also shapely. So, and I grew up around Black women. I have 5 sisters. So I still grew up in an area in which, I have been conditioned in a sense by my culture to prefer women with a bigger back and, certain type of, proportion. So this does ring true for me as well.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
So I don't have a study to support this, but I have read somewhere that genetically the man is attracted to a woman who can bear children or bear genetically superior children. And they say that there's a desire to have a woman who's not too small, who can carry his children to give good genetics going forward. So I'm not sure what role that plays in preferences, but I think genetically most men have some sort of subconscious attraction to a woman's figure just for his offspring and for his legacy.
Good point. David, you said your study was based on 1,000 men, right? I mean, if we're looking at the global population, I don't know if 1,000 men is a really, statistically significant number. But I do want to hear from some of the other ladies on the panel. Araba, how do you feel about what we're talking about? What are your thoughts?
I'm like, please don't go to me yet. Please don't go to me yet. And then you call my name.
Sorry.
I get what the men on the panel were saying, right? I definitely, and we've had this conversation in our own panel, and we've had a little bit back and forth. But I think for me, what men are typically attracted to is not my major concern or my problem. I think for me, where it becomes dangerous is when women kill themselves to achieve this beauty standard that is so often pushed in society. And we don't have many people holding like media outlets and the people that perpetuate this body idea, this body image, accountable for the toxic, the toxic things that we see. And so what's a result of that is people are, getting BBLs, and they are, killing themselves to achieve this unrealistic body type that many women actually don't have. Like if you look at statistics, a lot of women in America are size 16 and up. And so with you being size 16, I don't think that means you're going to have just big breasts, a small waist, and wide hips. That fat's going to go everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like there's, of course, women who are naturally shaped that way, but let's be honest, like the everyday average woman doesn't look like that. And so for me, what sparked this, my being triggered in this whole conversation is I think there's just another part of this conversation we need to explore, right? Okay, men can be subconsciously attracted to that figure, but there's a huge amount of social conditioning that goes into that as well. And we need to kind of address why is that? And how do we, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't have the right to be attracted to that body type, but I also think that we need to address why is it so much so that men are attracted to that body type and that body type, like only and specifically. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Araba. I do want to expound on something that Araba said, how, a majority of women do not actually have that body type that you guys are describing, which is like this Coke bottle figure of like trim waist, big breasts, big butt, right? And so in order for a lot of women to achieve that aesthetic, they are getting plastic surgery. So how do you men on the panel feel about women who are getting plastic surgeries? Are you guys attracted to women who have gotten plastic surgery? Shem, I'll go to you.
That's a no for me. All natural, every day. Like, for me, it's like the fact that you could go out there and spend money to look the way you want to look. That's just fake. That's just pushing it too much. That's my opinion. I prefer a woman who's, natural in that regard, rather than a woman who's so, insecure about herself that she would actually spend crazy amounts of money to look the way that she wants to.
Okay. Didi, you want to sound off on that?
I want you to ask the Christian bad boy.
Christian bad boy is over there looking real pensive.
He's
Them
so
eyebrows
quiet. I don't want
furrowed.
he's not well. I mean, your body is your body. You do what you want with your body. But I have never dated anybody with plastic surgery, and they're not my cup of tea.
Okay.
I prefer a natural woman.
Okay.
And I think that is one more thing. And I just think that social media has a big part to play with how younger people view women now. Instagram, Facebook, like all what they see on Instagram, those Instagram models. So I think the younger generation coming up now, that's what persuades their mind to actually desire a woman that looks like what they see those plastic surgeons, like those women that get their body done. I think social media has a part to play with them going in that direction.
Gotcha. Christian bad boy, you want to go or you want David to go first?
Let me so just in regards to the commentary we're talking about, obviously in terms of the unnatural beauty standards, obviously there is always going to be a standard. Like you can't roll through life without there being a standard. Someone's going to set a standard. There's always going to be a standard that can't be matched. That's why it's a standard, right? And I don't believe the majority of men are choosing women they're looking for the absolute perfect standard. Now, there are men. I agree, there are men like that. But I don't think men are actually looking for the absolute perfect standard. I don't look for a girl who's got perfect Coca-Cola shape. Now, I do look for a girl who's closer to that, but it's not. I know you're not going to get that. We understand that as men, right? So you might concede on it. You might get someone who's got a smaller chest but it's got a bigger back. You concede on something. She might have a bit of more of a waist. You might go for the chest. You might go for the back. Like no man. I think most of us men. Sorry, most of us men understand that we're not going to have the perfect woman. The other word that's not being mentioned here is that when it comes to surgery, it's beauty capital that we're dealing with, not preferences. We're dealing with beauty capital. And that's what conversation we're missing here. And that's where accountability comes in. When you're trying to expand your options and increase the capital of investment you get from men, male gaze, male investments, which is a patriarchal society, which I agree. So I understand this. The fact that we know that obviously the type of jobs that people might go into, they may want a certain shape because they know they're going to get more out of that job. That's beauty capital. That's not necessarily the preference of men. That's a beauty capital. That's a system that we're in where you are drawing finances from, right? IG, for instance, right? That's not about me and you. That's about the person having beauty capital. That's about the fact that there's gays. People are going to see that picture more, like it, and that's for your validation. Then there's a second part of it, which comes into finances, which is what there's certain jobs where if you have a certain figure or shape, you're going to get more money. If you're a video vixen, you want a bigger back, right? And if you've got the best shape possible, you're probably going to get the best jobs, right? So that's a slightly different kind of conversation. If we're just talking about dating preference, which is what I'm staying on dating preference, right? Then of course, as David even mentioned, and my mum is shapely. That's got nothing to do with the standards of the world. You see, that's what I'm talking about where we're shifting the conversation. My mum is shapely, blood. Where do you want me to look? Where do you want me to see that? Where else am I going to see the shape from? I went to church and the aunties are shapely. Listen, they wear the ankara and the ankara is shapely and I couldn't understand it. How can the ankara be shapely, blood? Yeah? But that's what I saw all the time. So I can only go on what I was seeing at the time as a young kid. So that's the kind of girls I like. I like the girl with a shape. You know what I'm saying? So evidently that is what I saw. So to say that if my preference is socialized by media, I would say no, it's not. It's shaped by the fact that where I grew up. My mom was shapely. The aunties I saw in church were shapely. Do you know what I'm saying? So to say that obviously that because most of the time I was watching TV, it wasn't even black women I was seeing on TV. It was white women. Do you get what I'm saying? So my preference isn't guided by necessarily the media because first of all, I didn't see black women on my TV. Growing up in UK, maybe different from Americans. You guys are blessed. You have black people on your TV. We didn't have that. We had S Club 7 white gal, yeah? Girl with no back, no slim like this. That's what we saw, bro. I went to school with white people. You understand? The only time I saw black people was at church. My mum's at my church and the ends. That was it. You understand? But I grew up around my parents, my church. I spent a lot of time there. So I grew up around shapely women. So is that really the media conditioning me, or is it the environment that I grew up in?
Why can't it be both? I'm sorry to interrupt, Maria.
It can be both.
I think like we kind of have to be careful of denying that this stuff is out there. It's branded into our minds, right? So I can say as times change, so do preferences and what we date change as well, right? Like there was this era where it was all about skinny women, right? That's all we saw in music videos. Like people preferred that skin. You had to be slim in order to be on TV. Then you had the era where the big breasts were preferred, and then the big butts. And now you open Instagram, you can't see not one person who isn't shaped like this. And you can't tell me that with you constantly seeing that doesn't have an impact on what you find to be beautiful. This is the reason why so many women are going under the knife, is because they understand that men are highly attracted to that figure, and they will do anything they can to achieve that. So I think that, like, I get it. I really do feel like, yes, because you've grown up in that environment and you've seen it, of course that has to play with your attraction. But we can't, like, take some heat off of social media and what we're conditioned to, like, see on a daily basis, because that has a lot of weight too.
I see things a little bit different. I agree with what you said, but also I don't think a person's preference changes with the times. I think that the times change. Like, for example, people prefer light skinned men over dark skinned men, wherever the case may be. And light skinned guys can go back in style, but I still don't want one. And that's just my preference. But I think that a lot of the time, women, I think that we think for men more than we ask men what they think. And we'll say, oh, men want this because that's what we're seeing on television and the videos. But the guys that I talk to don't like this plastic woman. They don't like this Jessica Rabbit figure. Most of the guys I look at, it's like they know it's fake. It's something to look at. Maybe I'll talk to her in the club, but I'm not taking her home to my family. I'm not going to wife her. So I think that we put pressure on ourselves as women to look like what we think men like. And men don't even like it. I don't think guys like half the stuff they see on Instagram. But I mean, they'll look at it because men are visual, but I don't think they actually prefer it or want it when it comes down to relationships or marriage.
Can I just say, what year was I born in? 1990. Where was IG then? Where was Facebook then? Where was any of the social media sites then? The only media I had was TV. And I told you, we only saw white people on our TV. So I'm not saying that, I'm not ignoring how media can influence people to have a certain beauty standard. I'm saying to you that it doesn't matter what it is. There will always be a standard that is guided by society. They will always tell you what the standard is, right? Irrespective. And I'm saying to you that the greater preference, the greater external pressure of what my preference is, isn't media guided. If it was, I would be going after a white girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, Viking style, okay? Because that's what I was seeing, right? That's all I was seeing on my screen. There was only one black woman I ever saw on my screen, and her name was Angelica. Love out for her. She blessings for her, man. Do you know what I mean? Right? But that's all we ever saw. We saw white women. But again, because of the environment I grew up in, I grew up around black women who were oftentimes had a back. Let's keep it. That's how I grew up around. That's what I was guided by. I'm not ignoring, by the way, I'm not ignoring that we are conditioned by society and the media that we are in, this time of age of media. I'm just letting you know that obviously I understand that, but the greater extent is, how did you grow up? What did you see around you? More times, that's actually going to guide your preference.
Could I hop in real quick? Just because, just to add on, I think, yes, what society imposes on women for their body types has changed throughout different eras. Like in the 1990s, it was much, the body type that was promoted for women was much skinnier. And in the 1930s, it was actually a lot heavier, right? So like these things change according to the times. However, what I have noticed is that they usually target women to say, okay, this is what's in, this is what men like, this is what people like, right? And so women contort their bodies to that. That's why in the 1990s, and like, I think there was a higher prevalence of women who suffered from bulimia and anorexia because of what they were experiencing or what they perceived men to like and stuff like that. I think it's much more dangerous for women because it's targeted to women more, I think, more than men, because a man's gonna like what he likes. That's just what I believe. A man is going to see what he likes and he's gonna be like, yeah, I like that. I think it's gonna take a lot more work for a man to be swayed over time by the media, whereas because, at least in my perception, women tend to want to be validated, right, with their beauty, because that's what they're told that they should prioritize, right? And so they want to follow the standard and be considered attractive. And so they follow, like, there's always going to be something else, is what I'm saying. Like, depending on the era, there's always going to be something that that women are affected by so that they can change their bodies according to that. In the 1990s, it was different. Now it's just BBLs. It's something else that affects women directly, and it seems to be targeted to women directly. But to answer the question, am I going to initially be attracted to a woman who is more shapely? Yes, but I think it becomes a question of acquiring my attraction and maintaining my attraction. Because if I can be initially attracted to someone who has gotten work done, but then if I find out, or when I find out that she has gotten work done, I'm going to be a little bit more concerned, because then I'm wondering, okay, how long can she keep that up? Because it's not just about the first surgery. You have to get touch-ups after a certain period of time. That's going to cost money. And that's still putting your life in danger because you don't know what's going to happen for each surgery. So not only are you changing your body one time, you're also spending a lot more money and putting your life at risk continuously. It's not just a one-time thing. So then that could also affect whether or not how she sees herself and her confidence level. And it affects other things as well. So it's just like, okay, I'm not sure if that would maintain my attraction. That's just how I think about it.
Okay, so you highlighted an interesting point, David, about how you might be initially attracted to someone who got work done. And, obviously they're fitting your, your standard of beauty. This is what you're attracted to, right? But then after you find out that they got work done, then that changes things in terms of your attraction. And so I feel like that's where it gets a little bit irresponsible, right? Because you're demanding a certain shape from women, but you don't, but this shape is, largely unrealistic. And so in order for women to feed your appetite, they're going through these drastic measures to become your ideal type. And then when they do that, then you throw them away and you don't like it. And so I think that that's the point that I really want to highlight and like challenge a little bit, because you can't always have it both ways, right? Like you want this ideal body type, but you want it to come naturally, and it's largely not as natural as you guys as we think it is in society. Like a lot of women have to get work done in order to achieve that.
Could I chime in? I think it's a bit presumptuous to assume that I want the typical Kim Kardashian type, right? I'm not sure, at least with the men that I know, because I have my best friend who prefers a much smaller body type. Like he doesn't like the same things that I like, right? Like, and we're best friends. We practically grew up together, and you would assume that because we're close friends, we would prefer similar things. That's not the case, right? So then I think it's presumptuous to believe that I would want a specific Coke bottle shape or whatever, and that specific type, because it's hard to find, is almost impossible to find or to attain. I think there's still a wide range, and that whatever shape that I presume to be shapely it comes in different types, because there's a lot of women who are more top heavy, but they're still shapely. And there's a lot of women who are more pear shaped, right? I could like either of those and be fine. And I have found that there are still women who fall into those ranges, whether or not they tend to be on the skinnier side or the heavier side. It still works for me because I still prefer the proportions that she may have, right? There's still a range there, and it's not just one specific type that I may encounter on Instagram. And that's not even if there are even times when I consider someone to be too shapely, where it's just like, okay, that's just really out of control, right? And because I'm aware of how women may contort their bodies, or even that some of those bodies are real, it's just like, I feel like that's too much. So I can see someone who's even more proportionate than Kim Kardashian and be like, that's not what I want, right? Because it's not realistic for me. That's not something that I want to attain or be, united with. You know what I mean? So like, I think taking into consideration, as you guys have said, the different types of body types that men may prefer, but also taking into consideration that there's still a range that we find acceptable and that we deem to be beautiful, right? So I don't think that within the framing that you just stated that it takes into consideration the range, is what I'm saying.
Okay. I want to hear from Shanae, because we know that society standards of beauty affects not just women on the bigger side of the spectrum, but it also affects women on the smaller side of the spectrum. So I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on what we've been talking about?
It's a great discussion, Maria. Thank you. I think that on both sides of the spectrum, there's been a lot of discussion around like, I can remember being a little bit larger when I was younger and then having to slim down. And then once I slimmed down, then it was, well, could you add this? And I was just like, oh, so there's like a perfect medium I'm supposed to fit in here. And I knew then like, okay, this is unrealistic. I'm not going to be able to meet whatever standard this is, but I know this much is that you, with so many, different standards that are based on society or your cultural norms, I had to switch to just being more accepting of what body I have. Like, I could go invest in plastic surgery. That's not how I choose to spend my money. So for me, I'm going to have to find what's going to be a comfortable way for Shanae to exist in Shanae's skin, right? And whether I attract the masses or not, at the end of the day, when my head hits the pillow, I have to be okay with how I look and the body shape that I'm in. And so it's interesting because in my late, I'll say mid to late 30s, I thought I was at like, oh, this is like perfect. Okay, Shanae, just keep it right here, right? I hit 40 and my body let me know, girl, that's not how this works. And I was just like, oh, okay. So weight's just going to go where you want to go. Oh, okay. And my mom was like, yeah, sweetheart, welcome to being a grown woman. That's how it works. And so you just have to try to find ways, again, to be comfortable in the body that you're in. And then if you want to tone here, if you want to maximize there, go for it. But life's going to happen to that body, either way you slice it. And so rather than me trying to try to find what ideal fits the male gaze, because I can say this, at no matter what size I've been at, it's not been a problem attracting men. So I had to just find that space where I was comfortable in the body that God gave me. I feel like if God wanted me to have a big old booty that was just swanging and thanging, he knew I would be no earthly good. So he said, I'm going to just give you some in moderation, daughter, because I don't need you out here ripping and running and thotting around. So, you know what I'm saying? I just had to get to that place and just work that place.
Thank you, Shanae, for sharing your experience. I know that women in general go through a lot when it comes to our acceptance of our bodies. It's like a whole journey for us. I want to hear from Layla. I haven't heard from you yet. What are your thoughts on the topic? What are your thoughts on, society's standard of beauty and how it affects women?
Well, on the topic, I think we just have to always keep in mind that how attractive or how desirable a specific person is on the marketplace, so to speak, is always a factor in how attractive they are to the opposite sex. So sometimes people like you might see in like movies, like anything based on Jane Austen or, like Clueless, when she's sending herself flowers to make herself seem more desired, because that does actually increase your attraction. And so the way kind of like society gets hypnotized is that when one person or a type of person keeps getting exalted as the thing that's most desired, then like the rest of, that society kind of falls in line. And it sort of becomes like a feedback loop where it's like, then more men or more women want that person and they become more desired, and it just keeps going. And so like when you see trends shift, it's because like they sort of shift. It's almost like every generation we pick a person or a few people and they become like the types that we're looking at. And so depending on what that person looks like, or depending on what those people look like, people try to emulate that. I mean, there's a lot of layers that go into sort of what you personally decide is attractive and what society tells you is attractive, but none of us are immune to either of those influences. Where it just becomes super dangerous is that internalized misogyny. I mean, of course, we can say that misogyny is hatred towards women and, sort of hostility towards women even. But when you live in a patriarchal society and you internalize that misogyny, it becomes self-hate. And then you do things like that are self-harm, which are plastic surgery, literally cutting yourself open, putting a foreign object inside of it, risking your life simply because you're a woman and you're trying to exist, find a lane in a patriarchal society. That's really what that is. Because if we could sort of just, if no one had to tell anyone else what they liked, or, if anyone had like an opportunity to be in markets where what they liked was available, then you wouldn't see this. It's just, it's the pressure, it's the social pressure. And a lot of it is subtle. A lot of it is actually very blatant these days, because of social media. So it becomes very acceptable just moving that line. And we can't necessarily just blame men for that, because like Lola said, a lot of judgment comes from women. I was at an event like a couple years ago, and it was all women, no men allowed. Now, first of all, that's going to only attract a certain type of woman, to be completely fair. But it was so relaxed. And it's not even like I'm the type of woman who does a whole lot of extra to attract a man in a going out type of environment. But it was so much more relaxed because the other women were relaxed. So it's like you didn't feel the pressure of like let's be real, like men can't, only a certain type of man has an intrinsic interest in what a woman is actually wearing outside of what it does for her figure. Like they're not looking at like, you know, this whole like red bottom, blah, blah, blah. Like men don't actually care about that. The color of your shoes, like who cares? Like it might be the height of your heels and what it does for your butt, but they're not actually caring about that. It's how it looks on you. But women do. So it's the internalized, it's the competition. It's the pressure and the judgment. It's the sort of like needing to dominate first within your own sex so that you can be promoted as the forefront option for the other sex. It's sexual competition. And just like, you know, some of the men were saying, you know, no, you can't say that I only like these women because of socialism. Exactly. You cannot, we do not necessarily determine only at the conscious level what we're attracted to. Like that is set at a level that is like not necessarily at your awareness, and it begins so young. It's too young for us to even really untangle it all the way. I don't even know if scientists have even figured it out yet, but let's just say that like we're not all the way in control of that. So it's just when you add that layer of hypnotism on it and then put everything in the context of the patriarchy, it puts women in an even more dangerous position now, more than ever. Because like before it was waist shapers, I'm sure that hurt, but now it's like literal like life risking surgeries that make permanent change. Even if you take it out, you're changed forever. So yeah.
Good point.
General thoughts.
Good. No, I think that that's exactly right. A lot of the pressure does come from other women. Lola, do you have any thoughts?
I think just like what Layla was saying, the females are complicit in what's going on, because I feel the men can have their preferences and that's fine. To some extent, that has nothing to do with us. But the point is, and who we should be looking at and who we should be talking to are the females, because we are now affected by what we're seeing and we're the ones making the change. Because the truth is, supply meets demand. Men will go to what they see. So if we within ourselves can be okay, because the thing is, like I said, everywhere I go, the people who attack and feel attacked to the females, we have the occasional knuckleheads, and I won't even mention his name. We have some of them on the outskirts who make those kind of accusations, but most of the judgment comes from within. So the conversation should be between us as females that, look, are you okay? We should be okay the way we are. But the problem is, Layla just said it. She says, we attack each other because we want to be at the top of the totem pole, to be picked, to be chosen. So this now falls on us. We're the ones with the insecurity. The men can have their preferences, but I don't feel they're the ones creating that point where we are going to have surgeries. We're going to do things that, taking out ribs. I don't think a man is expecting us to do that, but the females are the ones that are increasing the pressure. So at this point, I hear what the guys have said, you know, they like the curvy this, the curvy. There's nothing wrong with having that preference. The problem is when you now have to change your body to fit that type. If you have to change yourself to fit someone's specs, that person's not for you. And that's what we really should be emphasizing, that look, and it seems so simple, but yet it's not. We should really be preaching about self-love. We as females should be loving each other. We don't. And I think that's who we need to face. I'm happy that DD and his brother Shem, who looks really cool, really are for because every pot, this is my belief, every pot has its lid. I do believe that. There's someone for everyone. Now, when we talk about, you know, females who are on the plus size, yes, they may have a narrow pool, but there's a pool. You can attract someone. Like, I think I used the example when I did my video one time and I talked about, Jill Scott. To me, Jill Scott's amazing. Like when she puts that on you, she'll put Beyonce out of business, because Jill Scott can be very sultry, but she can be considered plus size or full figured. So the thing is, we have to figure out how we're going to develop our own self-confidence, and then the men can figure it out. if they fit into our specs, because I feel we need to switch over. We need to switch things. Because yes, we do get conditions, they do all that advertising, but we can snatch that back. Things have really changed. Before there were only certain mediums where it was, then okay, let's talk about the States, NBC, ABC, Fox. But now we have different social mediums that we can use to propel ourselves, to actually give ourselves, regain back our confidence. I think that's where I would like to put that voice in. Like, I'm talking to my daughter now. She's, funny enough, my daughter's she's 18, where she's a little taller than me and she's a little bigger than me. But I want her to know that it doesn't matter what size she is, it matters who she is. And so it's at home that we're kind of preaching this message. And I think that's what I kind of would like us to, target as we go with this conversation and other conversations after this.
I hear you guys. And I agree, no disagreements for me over here. And while women are judging other women, and they're definitely contributing to some of the toxicity when it comes to body image and self-love, there are still forces who have loud voices. Because I actually haven't seen like a woman with a whole platform like degrading women for their body size and shape. I mean, they might be out there. So if they are, let me know in the comments who they are. But there is an actual, male force who we all know, and I dare not say his name. But it starts with a K, he's out here saying really derogatory things about women's body shapes, and he has a large following of men who look up to him and who believe the things that he's saying. And I saw a video recently where he was like, I guess women call into his show, I guess to get his advice on like dating and image consulting or whatever. And she was plus size. And he asked her if she's been having sex. And she said, yeah. And his response was, see, men, stop putting your penis in the fat. And like saying all of this stuff that is like really harmful. And men are like eating up his content. They're loving it. What are your thoughts on that, Araba?
Oh, that's disgusting. If he really said something like that to someone, that's disgusting. My personal opinion on KS, because I guess we're not saying his name. My personal opinion on him is I actually don't disagree with a lot of the stuff that he says, surprisingly. I think a lot of what he says does hold some truth as to what women need to consider when dating, and likewise for men too, because I know he does speak to men as well. I think for me, it's delivery with him, and a lot of the things he says is like extremely out of context, right? And so the problem is when you're trying to, he advertised himself to be this image consultant that helps people, like, I guess, in the dating scene. And that to me says that you are supposed to be a person that cares about people and how they have relations with other people. His approach is not very caring. Like the way he talks to women is very condescending. He berates them and he kind of just like speaks to them as if, how dare you even aspire to have a partner that is anywhere on your level, because you're not on that level to begin with. So how dare you? And that for me is kind of just like, so who died and made you God, and who died and made you the dictator of relationship standards? So I think for me, KS also needs to be aware that like there are men out there who will date the very woman that he tends to put down a lot. And I think he doesn't explore that enough on his channel. He kind of preaches that all women should reach to be this certain aesthetic in order to secure the man that they want to go after, but completely ignoring that there's not one type of man and there's not one specific preference, right? And so for me, I think he's just the wrong messenger, not anyone to be giving advice to. He doesn't have credentials to be a life coach. He's an image consultant. So why are you giving dating and relationship advice? So that's it for me. Like, I'm good on KS.
Kojo, what are your thoughts?
So with KS, I'm glad you said KS because obviously I'm K as well. But obviously with KS, one thing I've always said the same thing. Some of his stuff is true, and some of the stuff is just absolute crap. And you kind of got to sift through and make sure you know what you're getting. And delivery is quintessential. And if you want to understand what I mean by delivery, imagine I'm a postman and I have a package for you from Amazon, yeah, and I dash it in your face. Now I've delivered it, but I've dashed it in your face. You understand? Whereas if I can hand you the parcel, that's a big difference. Do you know what I mean? So delivery is so important. And I think he fails on that aspect. There's no love in how he delivers. What I would say about KS is, and this is why it pertains to this conversation, he understands the system. And that's the issue we're having. He understands the game we're playing. It's a competitive world. He understands the competition is how to maximize your options. He's going to tell you some crazy stuff. Listen, lose weight, make yourself this way, do this, do that, and you're going to expand your options. And the truth of the matter is, that's the system. The system that if you apply the system, in most cases, it should work. If you're a sports person, you understand this. When you play sports, there are systems, right? And the same thing with life. Life is one of those things that requires some type of system. And if you play the game in a certain way, for certain people, not everybody, this works, then you can win in a certain way. If you're looking to get a husband or get a partner or high value male, as he calls it, whatever he calls it, I may not agree with everything he says, but I understand that he's trying to give them the system. And if you want to apply the system, because many people follow the system. We're talking about patriarchy. Number one, a lot of men follow patriarchy. You're talking about misogyny, a lot of men are misogynistic. You're talking about beauty standards, most men apply it to the beauty standards. So if you're talking about a system and it applies to those things that that a lot of men are following, guess what? The women want a man, follow the system. So I can't hate everything he says because he is understanding the system. I dislike the fact that he says things which are, number one, not true, and number two, are very divisive and destructive, right? Because I really believe some of the conversations he has online, I think he can go behind the scenes and say it in a much better way. I just don't think you need to be destructive and say, listen, you're fat, you lose weight. That's destructive for me. That doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? I think if you love the person, you would go to the person quietly and say, hey, look, do you know what? You've asked me for my opinion. Here's my opinion. I know it's going to sound a bit harsh, but look, this is what potentially you might want to look at, right? And that gives it a different perspective. But when he says certain things like that, I can't rock with him because I see that destruction. I see that I see that it does damage. But I would say this. Women have to be accountable. Why are you going on his show? You know what he's like now. At the beginning, you may not have known, but you have to be accountable. We cannot excuse you. You are going on a show knowing he speaks like this and says things like this, and you're going on there? I can't have sympathy for you because you have seen what he does. And I think this is an honest conversation. We have to hold those women accountable. He's been on his grind for a long time. You type in Kevin Samuels, you know what he's going to bring to the table. That's like going to a business who's got 1 star with rat infestations and going, why's my food come out like this? Well, bro, when you read the reviews, you saw that the thing wasn't correct. So why would you go there? So that's the level of accountability I think women also have to have on that regard.
Okay. Good points. Layla, what are your thoughts?
I really do agree with Kojo, but with the caveat that I don't watch Kevin Samuels because I'm not trying to be triggered by watching women volunteer to be verbally and emotionally abused on the internet. For what? Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see that. So all I hear about KS is what other people say about him. And to me, it seems like he's mainly talking about women who are dissatisfied with the quality of men that they get or the lack of men that they get. And so he's usually speaking about how to obtain a high value male. To me, everything that I've seen of him, it seems like he's just kind of like one of those people who is a reporter on the actual state of affairs, but he does it with this shtick of being a jerk. You know what I mean? Like that's what gets him the clicks and that's what gets him the views, especially if he's been at this for a while. He's probably tried various tactics. So I've seen a picture of him recently. He looked quite feminine. So I don't necessarily, unless he legitimately hates women, I don't necessarily think he is this like alpha male. I'm so raw that I tell it like it is, and everyone's gonna get the super raw, straightforward truth. I've even seen videos of people meeting him in person, and he seemed quite lovely. So I think this is just a whole thing that he does to get views, and it works. And unfortunately, whether it's genuine or not, it still has the same destructive power. I mean, accurately describing a system of sexism, accurately describing misogyny, accurately describing what he sees in men who lead Black, urban, hip hop, whatever culture his viewers, participate in, and the type of women that they go for, that does not make him a prophet. That's the problem. People act like his ability to just tell the truth about the ills of society is some kind of gift. It's not. It's just that we are all sort of civilized enough to know that we can do better than this. But to be honest, I mean, I don't see these men that he describes as high value, at least on a worldly visible scale, going for women who are not a certain shape. I see them going for variations of that same shape. And the thing is, it is a Coke bottle shape, but it's generally skinny women who then find a way to attain that Coke bottle shape. So that's why there's sort of like a disconnect. It's not usually women who are naturally thicker, who are keeping it together, so to speak, or who are in the gym working specifically on their waistline. It's skinny women who are getting plastic surgery to be bigger, because they too would not be chosen in the natural state of things. Let's be completely real. Like, I know the women on here if you've been in a relationship, you lose too much weight, your man is like, no. You know what I mean? No, I'm missing. There's some parts of you missing. We need to get those back, but they don't want you to get back too much of it because then it spills over into other areas. It's such a fine line. It's a lot of pressure. But he's accurately saying the women who can successfully navigate that pressure-filled tightrope, they get the so-called high-value men. They get the ones who are most prominently displayed as having the qualities that women want, and that's resources from a genetic standpoint. It's resources. Money is what it translates to today. Assets, independent wealth, time, free time, while still having money. That's what he said. If you want to get that type of man, he's looking for a woman that has, high personal mate value, which is the high desirability on the marketplace. He's looking to have a trophy. Most men are at a certain point because they've worked so hard to attain these resources that women say they want. So they feel entitled to having a mate that's like, okay, this is a prize, this is a trophy, this is one that I can show off. So even if they have a personal preference, this is why you see a lot of men who have a woman who looks a specific way and they cheat on her with women who you're like, what, girl? Oh, she doesn't even look as good as you. Look at her body, look at her face. Yeah, that's what he really likes. That's what he actually likes. But that might not be what's hot in the streets. So he's gonna have the trophy on his side for as long as he can, kind of deal with it. It's just, it's like I always say, the ties of the patriarchy bind us all, and men are bound too, sometimes in unfortunate situations, and sort of it's just that loop that keeps going.
Good point. Because I do feel like, we tell women to, do all these things to attract a quote unquote high value male. And, a lot of women do these things and attract these so-called high value males. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they get treated any better in a relationship, right? I mean, Beyonce is the standard of beauty that everybody can all agree on. She's probably one of the most beautiful women in the world, right? Body perfect, face, all of that, right? But she still got dogged out in her relationship. And so when we talk about attracting someone, quote unquote, high value, I think it's also important to educate women on what truly is a high value male. And I like to say a man of quality, just because, you know, I feel like when you say high value, it like they narrow it down to finances only, right? It's all about, does he make six figures or not, right? But we don't really talk about the character of a man. You know, is this man a person that actually respects women, all women, not just the type of woman that he thinks is deserving of respect, right? And you know, what is his integrity like? What is his character? So I feel like that's where we need to start marrying the conversation of like, yeah, you know, you can do all these things to attract a man, but a true man of quality will not require you to change yourself in order to deserve love, right? At least that's my thoughts. Didi, I haven't heard from you in a while. What are your thoughts on that?
Though I just have a question for David and Christian Bad Boy. Let's say you get a woman, right? And after her pregnancy, she gains the weight. Because I've known of cases where I've read about there were women that did plastic surgery and to enhance their features. And it even has gone as far as the husband had sued the wife for false advertising because she looked a certain way, but the kids came out looking a certain way, and then the kids came out ugly. But what would you do, Kojo? Like, let's say your wife or your girlfriend is at a certain what you were looking for. After pregnancy, she gained weight. How would you feel about that? Would you ask her to lose weight, or would you just have her just continue looking the way she looks?
So
Kojo and David.
would I still be attracted to her? Is what you're trying to say to me?
Yeah, and also would you ask her to lose weight so she can look the way before she looked before pregnancy?
Would I ask her to lose weight?
Mhm.
In all honesty, it depends how old we are. No, I'm
but
I'm
you still
keeping it
haven't-
real.
you
Me, I
still-
don't lie.
but-
Me, I don't lie. I can't. I haven't got
No,
time to
but
lie.
you still haven't answered the question.
So I've dated a girl. I've dated a girl, right? No pregnancy involved, and she got bigger, and I still loved her. Because the whole point is that I'm talking about the first attraction. That's my initial thing I'm talking about, right? After that, the most important thing to me is your mind. The most important thing is your mind. And I said this about us men. Men will love you in your body first, yes, but they need this to stay, right? That's what keeps us there. Do you know what I'm saying? The first thing is what gets us in the room, but what keeps us is what's in the room. Do you understand? So for me, if you gain weight, I'm not going to die, bro. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Because by then, this is what I'm in love with. I'm a mentalist, so you know what I'm saying? Like, the body's great, but I need to know this is important. You know what I'm saying? I'll keep it all the way true. Sex is fire because this is on fire, bro. Not because the body's bad. Do you understand? Right? So for me, if this is not connecting, it doesn't matter how fire she could be or not fire she is. I'm not engaging. You know what I mean? I need to have that depth from you. So for me, I'd still be in love. Do you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if we've conjoined and I've spent time with you to the point we've got to a point where you're even pregnant, my friend, then we have a connection. You understand? We have a connection, right? So I'm gonna keep it true. I would still love. It doesn't change my thing because I want that in the beginning. Do you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't change that. David.
I hear you.
Didi.
I hear you.
Yo, I feel like sometimes Kojo is in my head because honestly, it's like, so I know this one girl, right? We grew up together and she was always fire. Like, body was always bang. She was always getting attention. But she annoyed me to no end because of the way that she thought about things, right? Like, she was very self-centered And there was a lot of different traits about her that I just could not get with. Now, another one of my friends, he also knew that, okay, like she kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but she's fire, so I'll allow it. Over time, they were on and off and stuff like that, but he began to become less and less attracted to her because of the way that she was acting. Even though her body shape never changed, she was still fire, and she's still fire. She's bigger, and she's still fire. But I could never get with her because I understood of the way that she thought and the way she perceived the world. I'm not gonna stay with someone like that. That's just gonna be annoying. That's going to be a headache. So if I'm with somebody that I truly vibe with, right? Yes, I'm initially attracted to the way that she looks, but I'm staying with her because she's my best friend, right? There's more value there than just her body. So to me, it's like, yes, obviously I'm going to see her body has changed, but I'm still going to be attracted to her. You know what I mean? Like, this is somebody that I have not only made vows with, but now I have kids with as well. This is definitely somebody that I'm deeply invested with. Like, I put babies in her. I'm staying for the long haul. You know what I mean?
But you won't. So you're saying you won't mention to her to go to the gym, or you want her to look the way she used to look before pregnancy? You won't say anything to her about that?
Listen, man, if the booty's still there, I don't have no problems.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
All right. I just wanted to know what was your opinion on that, because that's how you all say you all feel. I heard that.
That was politics.
And-
I'm just saying. I don't believe that. I'm just going.
And likewise, Lola,
Why is it politics?
we think alike. You see, we think alike because I do not believe Kojo and I do not believe David.
No,
They
explain.
will tell-
Which part do you believe?
Nah,
you will mention to your wife or your girlfriend, go to the
Kojo.
gym and get some of that fat off.
Not like
You
that
will.
though. I told you I would. I already told you I would. I never said I wouldn't. I said I would. I didn't say I wouldn't. But I wouldn't say
you
like
said
that.
You said if she don't want to, you go with personal like.
No.
best
I
friend,
didn't say
like-
I'll go. No. I didn't say that.
Okay.
What I said is
Maybe
this
I
has this.
misunderstood.
I said the first thing that gets me in there is you're out of shape, right? But what keeps me there is this, right? Now you asked me one question: would I say something? I said yes, I would, because I would expect you to say something to me. And I've been in relationships where they've told me, "Listen, coach, you get a bit pudgy," right? I'm like, raw. It's kind of peak, but okay, cool. I'm going to the gym. You understand? Like, it's not a beef, because once we have that open communication of a relationship, I get it. I'm a person that doesn't, it's not concerned by that, because I understand that the person wants to see me in a certain light. And that's why I said age is a factor, because at 40, are we really talking about this, really? At 40, am I really gonna be, do you know what I mean? I feel like I don't need to be talking about them kind of things, right? But if I'm at this age now, yes, my youth is important to me. Your youth is probably important to you. Do you know what I'm saying? So I expect, if I'm getting a bit pudgy, I expect my girl, listen, baby, you're getting a little bit pudgy. All right, just get yourself in the gym, right? And I'm gonna be like, do you know what? I heard you, babe. I'm gonna get myself in the gym, right? I'm never saying something that I would never take myself. Never do that. I would always say something that I expect to be done to me too. Do you know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't just go, babe, lose weight. No, I would never do that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I would never do that. That's insensitive. I would never do that. So okay. I think, but I would say it. So me personally, I would say it, but I don't know about anybody else.
I don't see the need to say it, because I have already dated a range of women. Some are heavier and some are a little smaller, right? So if my girl starts off one way and she gets heavier, if the assets are still there, I'm not gonna have any problems. Now, if we're talking about she somehow loses all her genetics and like her assets change or whatever, I'm going to mention and be like, okay, what are we doing? You know what I mean? But I don't see that happening realistically, because again, that's genetics. That's what I was initially attracted to. I don't see how that would automatically change. Anything is possible, but if that's the case, then okay, then yeah, we talk about it. But it's also not a deal breaker.
How about this, Maria? I would say it. I'd say it to whoever I was dating.
Say it to me later.
Because I would know that it's very difficult. I remember when I gained, a significant amount of weight, my grandma was the only one who told me, because she's a very straightforward Jamaican woman who doesn't understand what it means to mince words to save feelings. So she just was like, "You're getting fat." I said, "Oh, okay. Sure. All right. I'll take that under consideration." She'd already built up, a little outer shell. Her words don't hurt me the way that I think they might hurt somebody else because I grew up in a family of immigrants. But she told me straight up, sometimes you can't see that type of incremental change in the mirror. And it's not necessarily like you need to do something about it. It's just that I'm gonna make you aware in case you didn't want to look like this, in case you didn't feel comfortable in your clothing. And it's not necessary. It's like Coach said, it's about how you say it. Do you want to let's take a kickboxing class? Let's join some type of team. Let's do some type of physical hobby together. Let's go on a hike. Let's do some mountain biking, whatever it is. You know what I mean? But there's an element of this that's not just attractiveness. It's about longevity. You know what I mean? It's about us being together and being healthy together, raising a healthy family. And I'm not talking about people who are, this is just your body type. Like, we're born with body types. I'm talking about gaining weight for your frame, for your comfort zone, not necessarily like there's a certain trigger number that, oh, now you're in the danger zone. It's literally for your frame. Everyone knows, no matter what size they started out at, when you've gained weight for your comfort zone.
Good points. Shanae, what are you talking?
So I wanted to jump in real quick, just very brief story and kind of tie it into what we're talking about. So I dated a gentleman that based on society standards, you would consider him plus size. Like, he shopped at the big and tall store, right, in our area. And I can remember when I brought him home to introduce him to my family, my grandma. Speaking of grandma, she told me, "Oh, you're going to have to cook for that man. And now he got a fat gene. Are you sure that you want to have his babies?" I was just like, what is wrong with you, woman? But, she did straight no chaser, right? And so we dated for several years, and he actually had, I never asked him about his weight from the time that we met. I never made it an issue, but he had his own internal issues with his weight. So he ended up having the gastric bypass, and these were all internal things that he had. I wasn't talking about his weight. I can even remember early on, like, his hesitance to be to go to the swimming pool and stuff, like wearing t-shirts and stuff. And I was just like, you can just take your shirt off. It's okay. But he was just like, absolutely, I'm not having it. And part of me felt so bad for him because, I loved him. So I was just like, it's okay. I love you. I'm not tripping off that. But do you know, when I started gaining weight, this same man was like, so I noticed you don't have that washboard stomach no more. You know what I'm saying? So maybe we should go to the gym together. And I was just like, the world is cold. The world is a cold piece because I've never said anything to you. And even your friends, when you would introduce me, they would be like, "Yo, is that you? That's you, bro?" And now you talking about my little stomach. And so I wanted to throw that in there just to let y'all know that it don't always be on some I love you and we're going to be stable and this and that. And, but God has a sense of humor, because after that gastric bypass surgery he had, I saw a picture of him on Facebook and he gained it all back. I know I'm petty, but
Hold on.
But you know what, Shanae, you've made a good point though. No, Shanae's made a really good point, because this is exactly what we're talking about. He liked you because you were a certain shape, right? And as soon as you came out of that shape, because he was feeling like this, he's like, I've got a baddie. I'm a big guy, but I've got a baddie, right? And as soon as you're gonna come out of the baddie shape, he said, hey, get back to the baddie, because you know what I'm saying? I've collected a baddie. I'm not about to lose a baddie. That's what he's thinking, right?
Exactly. And that's when he took me to school and taught me about who do I want to be as a woman? Do you want to be a trophy or do you want to be a woman? And I had to learn that because I spent, almost 4 years being his trophy. I almost married this dude too, being just his trophy wife. But at any point in time, I had to remain in that state, right? I had to remain that trophy, and that wasn't going to be the case. And so he took me to school and taught me a very much needed lesson that my self-esteem, my self-confidence, my self-worth needed to know. So, as cold piece as it was, I appreciate that man to this day. How you doing, boo? You all right over there, big warm teddy bear?
You know, and Natalie, I'll let you jump in here, but I'm sorry, but Shanae highlighted a few points that are just too good to pass up on, okay? This whole double standard, okay, of men requiring women to look a certain way whilst themselves is nowhere near up to par. And this whole conversation we've been talking about, women and how women need to look and what men are attracted to, but we haven't yet talked about what women are attracted to, because women are visual as well. Okay, we like a certain aesthetic, as well. But what I see is a lot of times is women are more willing to look past physicality when it comes to initial attraction. Like initial attraction, we might see like, oh, okay, he has muscles or whatever, but then it's like the personality hits us, and then we're like, that's can be a huge turnoff, right? But we're more willing to make exceptions if a guy doesn't fit our physical standard. And yet those same men will place these standards on women and hold women to these standards. So, Natalie, I'll let you jump in here. I know you had a point earlier. You can make your point, but then I'd love to hear your thoughts on the point that I just highlighted.
Yeah, we can just jump on your point. My point's a little old. It was back when the KS topic, so we can just go ahead past that. But as far as the double standard, so in my maturity, I'm kind of learning to be a little bit more devil's advocate, kind of step back and look at things from a broader picture. And I think that sometimes we as women, we see things through our own eyes, and we expect the world to see things through our eyes as well. And the world doesn't see things the same. So yes, women are definitely more lenient on what they find aesthetically appealing or what they find attractive in a man, whereas a man may be more physical. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's a double standard. I think it's just we're wired differently. Um, so I personally yes, for me, I can date a guy. Like for me, height is a big thing, but I don't really care about some other things. You're smart, you're honest, you're tall enough to ride this ride. I can kind of rock with you, and you got a stable job and benefits. We can rock. I don't need you to have a six pack because I don't care about that anymore. I don't care that you got Jordans. I don't care you got rims in your car. But I think that men, not all men, but I think that men, their things may be more physical, and they don't care that we have a good job. Like sometimes we come to a man and we're like, oh, we got to have a good job and 2 degrees and this and the third. And men are like, I don't care. So they can tell us it's a double standard. I don't think it's a double standard. I think it's just their standard and our standard. It's just what it is. So I'm learning. This is a work in progress. I'm not perfect, but I'm learning to see that my vision isn't their vision or his vision, and the world's not a fair place. It's not going to be. We all get it. It's not Oprah's audience. We don't all get the same things. So I'm learning to just sit back and understand what I have that they want and what they have that I want, and then we make a match. But I don't need them to want what I want, and I don't need to want what they want. As long as we want the same things in each other, we can hash the rest of it out.
Okay. Fair enough. Arawa, any thoughts?
I actually had a thought on the question you asked before the double standard. I was in a situation where I was dating a guy he was big. He was big. There was no six pack in sight, no hope for it in the future. He was big. And I don't say that to be funny, but he was big. He was a big guy. And I was okay with that. I was attracted to him. I thought he was handsome. I loved his personality. Everything for me was okay. And we were dating for a few months, and I was really happy. Like we both gained happy weight. I feel like Kojo's dying. for what I said. Oh God, forgive me. But I remember one time we had stayed in to make breakfast. And I had my 2 pancakes, my scrambled eggs, and my cup of orange juice. And he made 10 pancakes and 6 turkey sausage links. Like Jacob from Married at First Sight, 8 eggs. The plate was heavy. And I was just like looking at him like, I wish I would have said, you need to slow down. Like I never did. And I wish I would have said something. Like I love how Layla was so bold and brave to say, yeah, I would tell you, you need to hit the gym. I should have said something because not only that, it's just unhealthy. And I mean, I can't say anything about the attraction thing because like I started dating him when he was big already. So, but 10 pancakes and 8 eggs, and it was a lot. It was getting to the point where I was starting to get heavy too. And I'm just like, we can't, one of us has to be in the struggle lane. We can't both be struggling. So ladies, do not be afraid to, make your preferences known as well. So I just had to say that. Speak up for yourself.
Can I jump in right quick, Marie, or was someone lined up next?
No, go ahead.
I wanted to say that in the example that I shared, having that conversation would have been so difficult because there was an insecurity there, right? That he already had with his weight. So it was just like, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to make him feel, you know what I mean? So it was just kind of like why you go out to dinner, you're just watching him eat and you're just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But you don't quite know how to be tactful and not hurt your feelings, but that I'm coming from a place of care. And so you're balancing all of this, right? And it's challenging. And I think too, a lot of times men will come into, not all men, but I've experienced men that come into a relationship with a lot of expectations that they say I have of them. And yet I've never communicated that. I've never communicated, you have to make this much, you have to weigh this much, I've never communicated that. Yet, I dated a guy that, the week before Valentine's Day, he put in 40 hours of overtime after already working 40 hours. Why? Because he wanted us to have a nice Valentine's Day. Now, I never asked for anything, never said nothing, but that's the stuff he had in his mind. So he put himself through all this work trying to meet this expectation. And where did he get it from? Where did he get it from? I don't know. So sometimes people come into relationships with a lot of baggage that you have to now try to, sift through and work through. And it can be very challenging. Sometimes you're trying to meet expectations that are so unrealistic and so out of the realm of what is even possible. Because a lot of times people haven't fleshed through a lot of their toxic thinking. And so I just want to toss that in there real quick.
But Shanae, let me just say one thing. Sometimes it can be probably because of the way you carry yourself. That's why he probably have that perception about you. So he must be seeing that you're a very exquisite woman, you dress well, it depends. Like sometimes he probably looks at you and he would suspect, like he just feels like maybe you that type, but he should have asked. That's where you went wrong. But I'm just saying maybe that's why his expectations of you, it was very high probably because of the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself.
I hear that point, Didi, but I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a cop out because I feel like you said, unless I had said something to him like, well, I sure hope we're going here for Valentine's Day or something like that, then I could see the point. But, I hate to say it. I just exist and you're feeling pressure.
Yeah, you should have really asked you that question. Like, you know what?
Exactly.
And that's what beauty does. You just defined it. That's what beauty does. That's the pressure you're talking about. The pressure is what you're talking about, Sinead, is the pressure of beauty. It automatically commands a certain type of value from the person, even if it may not be true, due to the society we live in. That's the game. The more beautiful she is, the more the man might think she wants this. because he associated that most women or some women want this, so she must want Valentine's Day. As for me, media will come Netflix and chill. But that he may be thinking, Raj, Shanae's like he said the word. I think the word he used there. Oh, Shanae looks exquisite. Okay, then I'm gonna have to do X, Y, and Z to keep her, right? And that's just that's a blessing in itself too. It can be a curse, obviously, depending on how he feels. But if the man is willing to, why not go all out? You know what I'm saying? So the pressure is exerted because we feel that beauty commands a certain value. I would just say this. I was a fat kid, right? And the insecurities that you have, trust me, most people who are big, I know it. You've gone through that stage. You know how it feels. You have insecurities. If you got a girl that was fine figured, you're going to feel some type of way every single time because you're thinking about yourself and then looking at her. You're going, oh, I'm a bit big. Why would she want me? Does she really want me? Right? Because that's how your mind is thinking. So you're always in a struggle within your own mind trying to fight those thoughts off. You know what I mean? So once you get to a place where you feel you're at your best body, those thoughts begin to quieten. You don't really have them anymore, and you feel more confident in who you are. But I can tell you, if you feel like you're not at your best way, if you feel it, there's insecurity that's brewing, it's waiting. But in a relationship, you know, the reason I was laughing about what Araba was saying is because finally the women are telling the truth. Y'all been out here PCing. Like, you don't see the brother eating 10 pancakes and think to yourself, well, you're getting large. Stop it. In your head, you're saying it. You know what I'm saying? And I know that. And that's what I'm saying to you. Free yourself. Free yourself. Free yourself. Don't live a life where you're not free. You have to find a way to say those lines because remember, like, you want to be attracted to your partner just as much as I want to be attracted to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a beef. You know what I'm saying? So in the relationship, because look, if I'm muscled up and I'm eating 10 pancakes, you ain't gonna say nothing to me. You be like, baby, keep eating them pancakes. Cause I know you strong. I know you strong. Right? Now you might say, okay, it's not healthy for you to eat 10 pancakes, but the fact of the matter is, if I work out and I look healthy, as in my body looks toned, this, that, the question you might be asking is, where does he put it? The same for the man them say to girl when the girl's eating low, it's like, rah, this girl's got a stomach. Where did she put the food? We all do it, right? So it's perception, right? I don't know if you guys have worked in McDonald's before. I worked in McDonald's before. When you see certain people come in, your mind, you have to control your mind. You have to control your mind because your mind starts going direction like, hey, you shouldn't be here. Why? Because perception. And it happens in relationships the same way. So all I'm saying to you is, ladies, free yourself. If he's big and you love him, yes, but he's now eating unhealthily, let him know. Right? It's not a Kim. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't, you know what I'm saying? Because you're going to suffer in the end. You know what I mean? Like, looking at him and going, you're judging him with your eyes about he's eating his 10 pancakes. Let the brother eat his 10 pancakes alone.
Okay. All right. So,
Love you, Robert.
We're getting some feedback that ladies, we have to change our approach when it comes to our interactions with men and our standards for dating and relationships and things like that. And we've talked a lot about, men are wired differently, women are wired differently, right? And, the way we see attraction, approach attraction might be different, but does it make it right? Does it make it okay? Is there room for growth? Is there room for change and progression? Lola, haven't heard from you in a while. What are your thoughts on that?
Is there room for growth? Of course
on
there
both
is.
men and on the side of men and women.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing for me with the men, so okay, let me just the way I feel with males, we accept a lot of what they do and we take it for normal behavior. A lot of the times they're moving mad, they're not moving with any logic, and we're taking it. So for example, the examples, I don't know who said it about Beyonce, that yeah, if someone can cheat on Beyonce, then nobody's safe. But the truth is, we're making it sound like we're assuming that a lot of these moves were made out of sense. They just did it because they can be standing up. And so is there room for growth? Yes, there is. Expectations and boundaries and lines. Because they will continue to do whatever they like if we allow it. And we're allowing it. We're still, Candice said something in there which made in the chat about the scarcity mindset. We're accepting these things because we feel like this is the best we can do. Once you're clear that, you know what, even if I don't get another one, even if I have to pay someone, I don't need to accept this. That should be the attitude. If we start walking around like, yeah, I deserve this, I deserve that, we won't settle, because I feel like a lot of females are settling. They've got this scarcity mindset where they feel like, you know what, this little crumb here, I'm going to make do. It's a crumb. I don't even like crackers, but I'm going to eat this anyway and make do with it. Whereas men are walking around like, I'm the king. You'll see, like, okay, for Araba is beautiful. I'm not talking about the guy she was talking about, but if he was chunky like that, like, so he walking around looking like he was looking, and she looking like she looking. How he pulled that? Because he was confident. So we need to have more confidence. So that's where the growth is for females. Because if whatever you are, whatever size you are, there's this lady on Instagram. I just started following her 2 or 3 days ago. Someone showed me her. I think she lives somewhere in New York. She has a fupa. And she has it on her profile. She smacks it around, puts it in a bikini, and she's so confident. Like, she will draw you in. And that's what you need to do. Like, she's pretty in the fact, but she doesn't even wear makeup all the time. But she pats her little fupa and she's proud. I'm not saying you should be proud. I'm not saying, I don't know what her diet's like. I don't know if she goes to the gym. I'm not saying be proud if you're unhealthy. But if you know what you're doing, you're staying the healthy version of you. Put yourself out there and be confident. She just drew me in. I don't know her, but I follow her now and just watch her videos. So we need to be more confident. We don't need to accept these things any longer. But this is going to be a conversation that's going to go over a period of time, because we as females, we've been conditioned and we've now controlled ourselves and pushed ourselves down to believe it. So if anyone comes up through the stocks, we say, no, get back down. That's not how it should be. It should be this way. We need to start, being confident. Because why do people tell us, oh, you're too strong or too this for a woman? What does that mean? What, I should sit down and look like a dummy? And in reference to Kojo's point, okay, let me tell you something. So there was someone I used to know, and he, was a little on the heavy side, and I let him know, and he was a little delusional about the information I gave him when I would tell him, bro, you're looking a little heavy, like you look like you'd be like 3-4 months. And he would laugh about it, like, oh no, I'm still, he'll just kind of suck in like, oh, I'm good. Then what I started doing, since he didn't want to accept the information I was giving him, I started acting, because I'm Nigerian, we know how to talk recklessly. So I said, there was this guy I saw at the bowling alley one time. I said, you see that guy there? The guy was a good 2-3 times his size. I said, you look just like him. For a whole day, he wasn't talking to me, but he got the message. So no, we're not scared to say these things. At least I wasn't. I spoke my mind and I was clear. Because what was Kojo and individual you were talking about? Oh, it's going to be on there. I'm not going to tell it. That's a lie of the devil, That's a lie. Because men are visual creatures. I don't care if you're 65. That's why a 65-year-old man is going to have a heart attack on top of a chick. So please stop saying that. If there's something you don't like, you talk to your lady and y'all go to the gym together, hold hands and skip. Or you're going to drive her to the gym. That's so that's how I feel. So let me drive right back to your point. Yeah, we do have room to grow, and we just have to have the confidence. Like, and that's the thing. I'm looking at Rabba like, this chick is gorgeous, this chocolate queen, and she was. I don't want to talk about him because he might have been a nice guy, but he was doing all that. That's my point right there. Like, that's it, ladies. That's it. Like, can we just join hands together and say, look, that's it. We will change the landscape of things. When we start following our specs and not his specs, things will change. But if, come on, let me not get a little aggravated here, but so we just have to believe in ourselves. If we need to hold each other's hand, if we need to do a freaking frack move, if I need to prop you up so you can feel about yourself, and some guy's talking to you crazy, and I just kind of picture like, no, sis, that's not for you. That's what we need to do. But that's it for me there.
So at the end of the day, you saying you're going to date with me if I wore Daisy Dukes?
Of course, I told you this weeks ago, sir. I said I would call you a pioneer.
I'm just asking.
I would say you were an individual. You've forgotten the little speech I gave you? Yes, I would. What's your problem, sir?
I'm just asking.
How about you put them on now and show the whole panel? We're here. I've got time. Nothing but time for you, sir.
Layla, there's room to grow. I think we can all agree on both sides, for both men and women. What are those areas of growth for both men and women?
First, I want to comment really quick on something I saw in the chat. And someone said that sexual attraction lasts forever. And I would actually say true attraction does sustain through, body changes, facial changes. Like if you truly find somebody's whole being sexy, you're gonna feel that way no matter what size they are, no matter if they lost hair, grew a beard, lost a beard, whatever. You're still gonna be like, oh, I liked you when you look this way, but you still look handsome, you still look beautiful, you still look whatever it is now. I truly believe that. I think that sometimes what it is the kind of like the intellectual interpretation of some of those changes, like what David was saying about how like he may be attracted to a woman who's had a BBL or some other type of plastic surgery, but the fact that he's processing like you spent this money to do this to your body, that's an intellectual distaste. You know what I mean? That's not a physical one, because physically you are attracted to them. And whatever that little, you know, that thing that you get that's physical in your stomach, those little butterflies that aren't necessarily physical, like that may still be attracted to them. But like intellectually and mentally, from a character perspective, you kind of stop thinking that they're as attractive to you. And sometimes that happens with extreme weight gain as well, because you think like, dang, you're not even holding it together for me. Wow. You know, and that can be unattractive to a person. And so to answer your question about like, what are some of those ways that we can all change, you know, to each do our part to dismantle the patriarchy, because it's going to take women as well. I think what women can do is make a deliberate decision to join women's spaces so that they can start to develop what may not be a natural empathy towards other women. A lot of times, you know, we as women, as anyone, everyone does this. Men do this as well, but it's more seriously detrimental to women because of the position that we're in the patriarchy. We can sometimes see a woman, maybe she's beautiful, maybe she just has one or two things that we may think that we lack, or one or two things that we may envy, and we may project our insecurities onto her and attack our insecurities. And of course, she's going to just perceive that as an attack. She's not in her head understanding like, well, I'm actually, you know, not happy with this element of my own person. So me being, you know, mean to you is really just me being mean to myself. You know, she's not in a place to understand that or even really give you that patience. So she receives it as an attack. So we need to just create more low pressure spaces where we can actually just reach a place where we are empathetic towards each other. And then we won't feel the need to do a lot of these things that we're doing and say a lot of these things that we're saying that actually are extra pushes along that cliff to where, you know, jumping off is doing something that's self-harmful. And like I said in the beginning, I do consider life risking plastic surgery to be self-harm and to be self-mutilation. So as a form of self-hate. So I think if we could find more of those spaces, if we could really commit to that, you will see like it is so freeing. When I was younger, I was mean. And I'm a little bit witty. So my meanness cut away. And so like, it was because I was insecure. And so as I grew into myself and as I literally started developing friends with genuine females, I had really, really bad experiences with girls growing up, backstabbing, just anxiety from like the three-way attacks, you know, just being like made fun of for no reason, just being made to feel less than for no reason. I had a resentment towards other women. And it wasn't until I had genuine women friends that truly celebrated me without any sort of manipulative aspect to it that I started to be like, I can celebrate all women. There is no reason to hate. There is no reason to try to tear somebody down. Do you know what I mean? Like, but that comes with you actually valuing women. And I think a lot of women don't value other women. I'm not saying most, I'm not saying you, anyone specific. I'm just saying a lot of women don't value other women. And so we get a lot of the reinforcement of the negative messages from the patriarchy. And so that's how women can change. Men, I mean, like,
we just need to ignore them. Just ignore them.
I don't really
ignore them and tell them what to do. That's how they need to change.
To be completely honest, it's like I really feel like most men can be sort of cajoled to shift. It's just that they don't have to. You know, like if women made them change, they would change. I think that's been exhibited in like a lot of marriages as a microcosm and just generally society at large. You know, when you hear things like happy wife, happy life, blah, 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 stuff like that, it's like men can be convinced to change. It's just they will call our bluff. So if we're not serious about that message, ain't gonna be no change. In fact, it's kind of like antibiotics. Like if you don't take enough, the bacteria actually gets stronger. And so that's what keeps happening. Women keep bluffing, just like society overall with racism. They keep bluffing and saying they want to end something and not really ending it. And we just keep getting called on it. So I think it's just if we can start, and I know people are going to be like, oh, so it's on women to dismantle the patriarchy. I mean, is that fair? No, but like, we do have to do a lot of the work for it because it's like asking people to give up power why would they ever do that?
Yikes. David, is there room for growth for both men and women? And if so, what are those areas of growth as it relates to how we view standards of beauty and attraction to the opposite sex?
Yes, I think this is more. I think it's probably heavier on the women because it seems more like it concerns your bodies and it concerns like how you guys view yourselves. So I feel like it's already been outlined. Like you guys, I feel like a lot of this conversation has consisted of the ways that like women can focus on their own growth in terms of like being able to be more comfortable with themselves or even shifting the narrative and in how they view themselves and how they can end the competition amongst one another or like impose different standards upon one another based on what they believe men would prefer. But I guess I'm more focused on what men can do because at first I was like, you can't really change men's preferences. A man's gonna like what he likes. But I do think that we can address men like Mr. Samuels who parade a lot of their projections and their prejudices and disguise it with preferences and stuff like that. I do think we can do our job to address and confront those types of narratives so that they're not as pervasive in the sphere anymore. I do think that we can work more on that. Apart from that, I feel like we've already been talking about a bunch of different things that are necessary to examine in regards to women and how they view their bodies and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. Araba, what are your thoughts? Do men and women need to change, and is there room for growth? And if so, what are those areas of growth that we can work on?
Layla mentioned something that made me think. You talked about power, right? And how people who tend to have power, you know, it's kind of like, why would they give it up? And I hear that. I think that's a very real thing. I guess for me, I still think we need to come up with ways to challenge those systems of power. And we shouldn't let the fact that they have that power kind of deter us from going against the grain. It's not easy, and coming up with ways to do it effectively can be difficult. But I think we need to start having those difficult conversations and start to become uncomfortable and start to really work to kind of reshift some of these damaging narratives that kind of impact women to where we have to constantly be subjugated to beauty standards and what have you. Because a lot of our conversation tonight and just conversations in general that I've had with my friends, it almost seems like a lot falls on the woman, right? Not only do we have to be subjected to these beauty standards, but we have to find ways to overcome them, and we have to find ways to navigate the world with and exist with these beauty standards. So it's a lot that falls on the woman. And I almost wish our conversations were centered around what does it look like if we reimagine power and how it and how those who have it in their hands, how would it look like if we really, really started to attack those systems? I don't know what those conversations will look like, but I think there are conversations that need to be had. So yeah, I think men and women, I don't know if it's necessarily that we need to change, but we also need to be very kind to each other. We do. There's just a million thoughts in my mind going on right now. I'm thinking of KS. Yeah, I'm thinking of KS and how that his whole platform is so oppressive to Black women specifically. And yes, I know earlier I said that I agree with a lot of his points, just not his delivery. Let me also be clear. Even though I do find some truth to some of his statements, we don't need your opinion or your voice because you're not telling us anything new. You're not doing it in a way that's constructive. And you're not mending relationships. You're not building communities. You're not doing anything that's purposeful. Let's be very clear, KS, right? And you're doing more damage than good. And I think for me, I'm so sick of the onus always having to fall on women, Black women specifically. That's what KS's whole channel is based on. You don't look this way, or you are not doing enough, or you have kids, or you're not appealing. So everything falls on you to be perfect. And if you're not perfect, how are you gonna, shift these things around to then, appeal to the man you're trying to go after? It's so oppressive. So I do think we need to kind of just challenge these systems that make it even possible for people like KS to have a platform. That man should not have a platform. I mean, we all have what's the free choice, free speech. Sorry, I don't know why I couldn't think that. We all have free speech, and of course we have the right to, speak our opinions. But when your opinions are damaging and they do no good and they prove to be more harmful than anything, no, we don't need it, right? Because a lot of people have opinions that Black people are not human, or Black women can't feel pain. So we don't need those types of opinions. They're baseless. They're useless. So we just need to challenge these systems and find ways to do it where it's effective and where women don't have to carry the brunt of everything in a world that, was, made to benefit men. So hold people accountable.
Good point, Saraba. I agree with you. I do feel like a lot of the burden of change and adapting does tend to fall on the women just because of the way the patriarchy is set up and the power dynamics are set up. Shanae, what are your thoughts? Is there change to be had for men and women? And if so, what are those changes?
Oh yeah, there's definitely room for opportunity, and conversations like this are really a great starting point to creating those change spaces. I mean, all of us on this panel, everyone that's in the chat, if we took on the role of change agents, we could really make something happen, right? So I'm a firm believer in just like taking authority and power, leveraging your agency over the messaging that you consume, right? Everything out there is not for you, and you need to own that, and you need to be responsible for that. Since we know we can't control the Kevin Samuels of the world, you have to control how much volume you're going to give his voice in your space, right? And so just leveraging that, I think, is so important. Manage what you can manage, and what you don't have any influence or control over, don't focus your energy there. Focus it on the spaces where you do have influence and you have the ability to actually affect change. I would also say, just from a Christian standpoint, you've got to get to the place where you know what the truth is about you. And that comes from what God said about you, right? We're made in his image. So therefore I'm an image bearer. It would behoove of me to find out what is the truth about me. And that's the messaging that I'll subscribe to. I know I live in a world. I know the society. I know the patriarchal setup. I know. But at the end of the day, what did my creator say about me? You know what I'm saying? Like when our car has something wrong with it, where do you take it? You take it back to the doggone creator so it can get fixed. And we've got to start doing some of that too. And so that's just my perspective from being a Christian. And then again, just conversations like this are so key. I love this. I love the previous conversations. I think when we come to conversations like this, if our objective can remain to not leave the conversation going, you wear the right crown, you wear the wrong crown. If we can just come to the conversation and say, our intent is to walk away with every single one of us having greater understanding, then that's a win for the culture. That's a win for the community. And that's a win for each of us individually.
Yes, Shanae. I agree with you. Like that is the whole purpose of this conversation, fleshing it out more is so that we can all think about things in a more progressive fashion and be those agents of change. Dee Dee, what are your thoughts? Is there room for growth
Well,
as men and women approach their perceptions of attraction and standards of beauty in society?
well, so far everybody on this platform that have gone before me have hit the nail on the head. I just feel like a lot of people need to stop looking to relationship gurus or stop looking to all those platforms for validation. You understand? Because a lot of them do that, and why look to those platforms where those people, some of those people lives probably even worse off than ours, but they're just using those platforms as just to make money. So a lot of people look to those platforms, they try to get what they get from those platforms and implement it in their life, and it don't work for everybody. It's not like what will work for Kojo will not work for me. What will work for David will not work for me. So there is always room for improvement in anything you do in life. So basically, yes, there is room for improvement, but I just feel people need to look at themselves sometimes, reflect, see what you've been through, because we've all made mistakes, and then you whatever mistake you make, you can correct it. If you don't correct it, it becomes a habit. So that's why I get a lot of women in or women or men in relationships where they're just constantly cheating because they made the mistake and then they're not trying to correct it. So it just becomes their habit. And that's something they cannot change about themselves because they're not looking at self-reflection. So yes, there's room for improvement, but I just think that you should be responsible for your actions, and you should also try when you make whatever mistakes you make, you try to grow from it and probably be a better person you were than yesterday. You'll be a better person tomorrow. So it's all I have to do with us. We have to be the ones to make the change or whatever we want to do to probably go forward or whatever we do to better the situation, better our relationships, better our lives, we are the ones that are responsible for making it better. That's how I see it.
Thanks, Dee Dee. Kojo, I'll let you have the last word. Wait, Lola, you went already, right? On this topic, yeah? Okay. Kojo, I'll let you have the last word. Is there room for growth on both men and women as we approach these concepts of attraction and society standard of beauty?
Yes. There's growth for me. There's growth in the way we discuss these topics. I'm very black and white, so I understand the need to have this conversation, but I think the way it's being discussed is difficult, and I think the difficulty is that some people do things which are called attaining. Some people address things that are maintaining. And when we're addressing attaining, that's where the conversation needs to have tact, because we're talking about things that are personal and that also as well can do damage to people's self-esteem. And so in that arena, I think for us men who are talking about the attraction, because that's not going to change. It doesn't. The standard will always shift and move, but there will always be this war but how do you discuss this topic is where my issue is. How do you speak about this particular topic? Is it in a way that's to destroy and to degrade women and men, or is it just, are we going to actually hold certain people accountable to address this in the proper light? Like, we've had a conversation today, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think this is the best way to have the conversation. It's not here to destroy any one other person. It's to be able to discuss and come to a well-rounded viewpoint, right? And I think that's one way that we're already starting to try to change the narrative. Number two, I think I used to be all about destroying the patriarchy. I was on it with the women. And then I realized something. It's never going to change. And the reason why is because men are physical. If they will take it if they don't have it. There will always be evil men. So you actually need men to lead. But you need good men. And that's the difference. You actually need good men to stand up. So you actually have to train men to have a different viewpoint to the men that exist beforehand. Because there will always be men who will stand up to try and take something because they are the stronger physical sex. Simple as. They will just keep on doing it. But we have to train men to be able to stand up and say, hey, this is what we should be doing. And that starts with sons. That starts with your boy. I said this before, like, if your boy is moving mad, you've got to tell him, like, bro, you're moving mad. If your son, when you're rearing him up, you don't rear him up in a way that is to be entitled and to take advantage of the opposite sex. That's not what we're asking for. And this is biblical. Because when the Bible tells men, it tells us that we should love women, our wives, sorry, not just women, but love our wives like Christ loved the church, right? So there's a leadership in that your love goes first before the submission comes in. So it's essential to teach men how to love first and to lead with love, right? It doesn't mean be soft. It doesn't mean you have to be all pampery. It just means that in your actions, is it leading in love? And I think that's how we start to change the narrative and have effective leadership, really, from men especially. So I think that's what us men need to be focused on, which is, addressing men, young men, and getting them to shift their mindset. But we have to get them early, because once they get to a certain age, they're set, and they will choose a certain lifestyle. So for me, that's where the growth is for men. I think women have already touched on what women need to do, but for us men, let's talk to our boys, man. You know what I mean? Fix up. Stay hydrated.
You guys, we did it. We had this conversation, a very deep conversation, complex conversation with many layers on an intellectual level, with love and respect for each other. We were able to unpack the different aspects that affect society. And I love how we were able to finish it at the end with talking about what can we actually do differently moving forward. Because it's one thing to complain and say, oh, this and that, pass the blame. But if we're not talking about solutions and what we can each do as individuals moving forward, it's a waste of time, right? So I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of you guys in the chat. You guys kept it respectful. You guys kept it intellectual. This was a great conversation. I wish I could have had more representation from women who were plus size, but I totally get it. To talk about, your experience as a plus size woman is very scary in today's society, just given the types of messaging and rhetoric surrounding the topic. I was pushing for it. I was trying to get it. It couldn't happen, but I think that we did this topic justice as a panel. And I'm really proud of us as a community, as Black people. We're thinking about things critically, and we're making waves. The tide is going to begin to change in a more positive direction. And like many of these panelists said, tune out the negative energy, okay? Self-love is paramount to anyone's growth and success in life. So yeah, I'm super happy and excited we were able to have this conversation. Thank you again, Kojo, for sharing your platform and letting me take over. I feel weird being in this section of the live, but yeah, thank you everyone, and have a great evening. Bye.